Hey everyone, this is James from Investing in Testing, going through another CV review. Um, if you're interested in more of these, they're on our YouTube. We've also got a course that will help you essentially learn this and more on our website, investingintesting.com. So, I've got another CV, like I said, and I'm pleasantly surprised. This is actually, pretty nice looking. I actually like the format. It's pretty similar to what I recommend. So that's really good to see. But there are always things that can be improved. So let's see what we find. All right, so this is great. Big name. I would say here that this is not so great. Like it's good to potentially put, I guess, the city. Maybe this is a Sri Lanka thing. I'm not sure, but in New Zealand you would probably put, I don't know, like your mobile phone number, your LinkedIn, and your address. Or sorry, not your address, but like the city that you're in. Uh, So that's, but if this is how they do things in Sri Lanka, maybe that's perfectly fine. What have we got here? Highly specialized and accomplished automation specialist with 4 years experience in software testing, both automation and manual, or both manual and automation, and worked for large-scale software consulting companies as well as startups. So this sentence is a little bit disjointed. Um, just this and makes it particularly long, so I'd probably look to restructure that. Also, the random capitalized S is not good. I'd also put some spaces after this so that it's formatted correctly. I see myself as a software architect in the next 5 years. I'd probably change that to a test architect, just on the off chance that it does potentially seen in a negative light because they see that you might want to get out of testing. Um, Other than that, I actually think it's good to show that you're engaged and you're trying to grow your career. So, what else have we got? Um, then we've got skills. This is great. Again, this should change based on the job that you're going at. Um, Probably should be a space there, unless this is like a tool's name and it doesn't have that. But this is all good. This is all like the most common tools that would be expected that you would know. And actually probably in order as well, right? Although you might want to put rest assured above Appium. Contact details are here, that's good. I guess whether you have them at the top or below, it doesn't matter too much. Skype ID, again, you probably would never be contacted over Skype in New Zealand or the US, so you wouldn't need this. I guess it's good to have on there. This is potentially an issue. Whenever there's a hyperlink, there's a chance that a tracking system will look at that negatively on your CV, potentially even discard it entirely. So you may want to just write out your LinkedIn. Let's see, so I'd probably change, I'm pointing at it on the screen. I'd probably change this to being, you can actually customize the URL. So I'd customize it to not have like the 88BB59BA, maybe like Dashana Kanara. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, like Testo or IT or something, just to make it stand out a little bit more. And then you can actually put that whole URL here, and then the tracking systems won't potentially disregard it. This work experience looks all right. Okay, so let's go through this. Work experience, software quality assurance engineer, specialized test automation. So this is poor English, right? Software quality assurance engineer. That's a mouthful. If that was your title, feel free to use that. I would put potentially comma, specializing in test automation, if that's what you want to do. You could also, at the moment, some words are capitalized, some aren't, which, like, I keep on harping back to this, but you're in testing, you need to be consistent and you need to show that you can spot these type of errors. So get rid of that. This is great. Yeah, you even use just the. See, I've told people in the past that you can, especially if you are light on history, just use years. Um, and sometimes I can't even remember when I started if I've taken a break in between, so I don't know the exact date. You can see here, it doesn't actually look too bad. This looks pretty reasonable. The formatting looks to be slightly off, right? Like this is larger than that, unless I'm slowly going blind. So that I would fix up because it's just that inconsistency that I don't think people want to. I'd probably put the years of the graduation there. I've jumped down, but that was just something that I saw. Studio Assistant at AU Private Limited. I don't know why people are putting Private Limited in there, or like, if you're putting, like, let's say you got a job at Apple, you wouldn't put like Apple. You just leave it. Sorry, you would just leave it as Apple rather than putting, C Corp or whatever. What a limited, I guess. All right. So working as an automation QA engineer, R&D, we've already implemented a common automation solution for mobile web services and also desktop. And also desktop should be and desktop. This is not capitalized compared to the rest. There's no space after your comma, so it should be mobile, comma, space, web, comma, space, web services. And a tool like Grammarly or any of the other ones I've mentioned before will help that out. I think that here you should, like, we have already implemented doesn't sound great. Like, what have you done? Implemented a test automation framework that combined mobile, web services, and desktop automation. And then I'd probably talk about the number of tests that were implemented and the results so far. So use this to decrease test time by X percentage, or the time it took to develop test automation by this percentage. Just some high-level stats to show what you've managed to achieve using that. And again, I've got more on other videos about this and on the course where you're trying to say high level what you've done and then what it's accomplished. But again, look at those videos because I don't want to really repeat myself on every single one of these. What else have we got here? So software quality assurance engineer. Yep, again, this is good. That's all capitalized, which is nice. Implementing. So I think this should in general be like past tense, right? Because it's what you did. So implemented a test automation framework using C#.NET. I don't think you need .NET there, right? Like C# should be fine. Because C# is really just a .NET language. So I think you can just say C#. Otherwise, it sort of makes me wonder about your level of proficiency. Experience in developing clear, concise, and comprehensive test plans and test cases. So experience, again, makes me think you're learning. I think if you just put like developed, clear, concise, and comprehensive test plans and test cases, that's fine. Initiating back-end automation, that is not good. Back-end automation really, I'm guessing, just is API testing, right? Like web service testing, or is it SQL testing as well? This is where I'm working with some other people directly, and it's one-on-one, so I can get feedback, whereas I'm just trying to guess because you're obviously not talking to me. I'm just talking to myself like a crazy person. So you could say that how to explain this? That you created an initiative or you started an initiative to build out API testing. I think API testing is such a commonly known term that that's what you should be putting in here because that's what people are going to be looking to see. Back-end testing, honestly, randomly you'll have people that know that they're trying to hire API testers, but they won't know that that is back-end testing, or they'll be confused as to exactly what you've done, like I am. So again, it should be past tense. Again, talk about your success with it. potentially, and maybe even the tool, especially because Rest Assured is something that is in the market that people are looking to get. So hopefully that helps. Checking technical feasibility application with the framework. Okay, this is again really poor English. I'm not even sure what you mean. If you're talking about checking the technical feasibility of application. I honestly don't know what you mean. Yeah, actually, I don't even want to guess. So that needs to be reworded, whatever it is. Um, and then initiating robotic process automation. Again, this is great. It's showing initiative, obviously initiating, but it should be past tense. And talk about what you did with it, right? Like, why did you do it? What were the benefits that you guys saw? And then suddenly you'll show that you're making a difference. One of the best testers that I've ever worked with is a guy called Tristan Worley. He is a test engineer. Complete sidetrack, and he'll probably never watch this video, so he'll never know that I gave him the shout out. But one of the things that he does best is he started implementing robotic process automation before it was really a thing. He would constantly see tasks that people were doing where it was essentially just repetitive, and he would just automate them using whatever tool. So I think this is a big win if you can show how it's benefited the team. But a lot of people, especially tested teams, won't know how beneficial this can be. And again, as with everyone, it seems, you've got full stops, non-full stops, non-full stops, full stops. So it needs to be consistent. Let's look at this last one. Automation Associate Specialist. Wow, these are fucking weird. Oh, I probably should not swear. You can tell that I've done a number of these today, so going a little bit crazy. Automation Associate Specialist. Sure, if that was your title, Automation Associate or Automation Specialist sounds far better. But if that was your title, that was your title. Implementing and debugging automation scripts. So again, just using a common tool is going to find mistakes like this. It should obviously be scripts. For different platforms such as web, and this time you've got comma space, web, mobile, and desktop, and it's lowercase. I don't understand, man. It's like there are different people writing different sections. I just constantly seem to see this, where sometimes there's spaces, sometimes there's not. Sometimes there's random capitals. And it's really confusing to me. Yeah, okay. So again, past tense, implemented automation scripts for different platforms such as web, mobile, and desktop, right? One sentence. And then talk about the benefits of it, right? Like reduce test time by X, or like the amount of automation coverage that you had. Just something to make it more tangible. Then debugged automation scripts during failures to show that, if you want to separate it into two things, have it as a separate sentence and talk about that separately. And then working framework enhancement team. I don't know what this means. Working framework enhancement team. It means you built up a framework you're part of the framework enhancement team? The automation framework enhancement team? Like, what did you actually do during this? You've sort of already talked about implementing test scripts. And I'd turn this into a framework and then talk about the number of tests created. Oops, sorry, I shouldn't show command prompt. Yeah, does that make sense? Like, I really don't know what you mean by this. Maybe other people will, but I honestly don't. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense to you. This is honestly like a really nice looking CV. This is exactly how I'd expect it to be formatted. So that's a big plus. I would say here, I don't know what cloud testing platforms are. Are you talking about Source Labs or something similar? Again, spaces. Yeah, but overall, this has been one of the better CVs that I've seen. I still wouldn't hire you. because it's too inconsistent. I'm going to see CVs that are better than this, and hopefully you can see why. If this helps, that's great. I hope it helps at least someone out there. Again, we've got a course if you want to check that out. You can check us out at investingandtesting.com. Thanks, everyone. All right. I'm sorry. I know I've already said goodbye to everyone, but I wanted to say this is the perfect example of why a cover letter, I think, is actually quite important. There's very little to tell me exactly what you've done here. It's honestly, like I said, it's still great. Like I still like this CV. But there's very little to tell me that you can actually do an automation job, right? Like I'm just relying on it, which is where a cover letter would help. And I always recommend you send a cover letter in. And there are two really simple formats you can use that essentially help you out. And yeah, that way you would, like, there's a potential that you would be passed up for automation jobs, especially with your current CV, right? Like, I wouldn't trust that you actually have the skill set that you've got. You should have a GitHub in here, and then your cover letter should essentially help show that you have that experience. So that's just one thing that I wanted to end by saying. Hopefully that helps. Cheers, guys.